Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Art of SBA Lending, episode 100. We made it. And for the 100th episode, we have a very special guest, Chelsea Krost. Chelsea's a personal branding expert, mindset coach, and top-performing LinkedIn learning instructor. She's been featured on Good Morning America, The Today Show, just about everywhere. And we sat down with her to discuss the power of personal branding when it comes to the SBA business development role. And as always, Chelsea has provided some actionable takeaways. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy our 100th episode of the Art of SBA Lending. So you came down to the BDO retreat back in January in Fort Lauderdale, and you gave a nice talk on personal branding, which was very well received, went like 90 minutes, and Garang Gala was in the audience. He raised his hand, and then you did this whole umbrella thingy that blew everyone's mind, and like it was just like I was watching Greg like just crap his pants. It was so good. Like, what did you do?
What I did that day is a taste of what I do with all of my coaching clients in our very first session. And that is essentially breaking down all that you do to then put you back together in a way that's cohesive, well-branded, and very clear to your target audience. And also very clear to yourself, right? Because sometimes we need to do it for ourselves just as much as we need to do it for our clients. But essentially, most likely, none of us are just doing one thing, right? We're doing this, we're doing that. I have that podcast, I work with this company, I work with that client. So how do you package all of what you do in one personal brand that makes sense? And that's where the umbrella comes in. The umbrella is that overarching brand identity that allows you to encompass everything that lives under the umbrella. It's connecting the dots in all that you do so that it's well branded, well cohesive, and super clear. And that's what we did for Greg in real time.
How did you learn how to do that?
So that really came with a lot of trial and error and truly like just genuine organic experience in doing this for 15 years now. So I started a radio show at 16 years old. I never imagined that was going to be the catalyst to my career, but it was. And about 3 years into hosting the show, I started to get, the audience was really getting built. There was some press from the show. So the buzz was starting to happen. And it was also around the time where the term millennial started to come out and everybody and their mother wanted to know how to market to millennials. What is the mindset of this generation? And my radio show was hosted by a millennial, produced by a millennial for millennials. So I was getting called on to consult for big business, IBM, Kotex, Cosmopolitan Magazine, Intel, Vitamin Water. I mean, Chelsea, can we pick your brain on all things millennial? What kind of content do these people like? Where should we be? People didn't know how to use social media for business just yet. I mean, this was 2008, 2009. Wow. So I was constantly building my brand presence because I was constantly creating content, right? My radio show was coming out once a week. I was creating YouTube videos. I was appearing on different press publications, whether it was Forbes or entrepreneur.com or Today's Show or CBS, right? All local and national affiliates. So I was putting the content out there on my website, on my social channels. I was building my personal brand footprint, or what I like to say, your personal brand like ecosystem, because your ecosystem's online and offline. And so I was building this brand, but not knowing what I was, doing was personal branding at the time until really 2017 rolled around, and LinkedIn asked me to create a course on personal branding, learning personal branding. And I was like, wow, that makes so much sense because I've been doing it half my life. And let me go reverse engineer everything that I did, because if I could do it, everybody else can do it, and help everybody else create their personal brand. So The course launched in 2018, and I think we're almost about 3 million students just within that course across the globe. It is crazy to pull open my LinkedIn and I see myself talking in Mandarin, in Dutch, in French. I mean, this course has been converted to so many different languages because it's undeniable the power of personal branding today. And everyone knows, if they're not building their personal brand now, then the competition's winning.
Who is taking that course? Like, are they small business owners, salespeople?
The course was rated as like a top 15 course for sales professionals and entrepreneurs and thought leaders, right? So I put thought leader in the category of you're a thought leader within this industry, right?
Thank
You are, absolutely. You are creating quality, value-driven content that people are coming to for advice, for guidance, for know-how. So you could be an entrepreneur and run your own show, right? Like you do, literally, show and business show. Or you could be an employee for a bigger company looking to build leadership and influence within the company because maybe you want that promotion, or maybe you want that opportunity, or you want a pay raise, and you want to build internal equity and thought leadership. So across the board, I mean, employees, entrepreneurs, C-suite executives, interns coming out of college looking to build their personal brand so that they're more of a competitive advantage when sending out resumes. I kid you not. I mean, it is across the board because personal branding is for everyone.
Let me ask you this. I've been thinking about this with companies they have a CEO who cares about personal branding, and then you have the company where their company cares about personal, or the brand of the company, really, the marketing, the branding around this company. How do you balance the personal branding aspect so that the company is not too reliant on the person's personal brand or vice versa?
So we're seeing a huge uptick within the past few years of it's not just important for the CEO to have a personal brand. Of course it is. But it's also just important as the employees to have a personal brand, because we are seeing a huge demand in human connection, right? We don't necessarily want to go to Amazon for Amazon news. We want to hear it from Jeff Bezos. We want to hear it from the executives at Amazon. We want to find out what's going on with Tesla. We're not just going to the Tesla channel. We're going to go to Elon Musk's channel, right? The person behind the brand is the most influential today. So smart leaders know that, and they're powering their employee personal brands. Employee personal brand channels, which is their personal LinkedIn, their personal Instagram, they're actually seeing even more engagement and conversions, like clicks or subscribes or downloads from the employee channels as the brand channel. And why is that? It's because the employee is using their voice, their expertise on behalf of the company they work for to nurture those relationships. So it's all about relationship building. Those employee channels are generating lots of brand awareness, lots of conversions. So they're individual marketing channels for the company. So I actually like to say your employees are internal influencers, right? Like all these companies are trying to work with external influencers to activate or, create on behalf of their company, when they should also be doing it with their internal influencers who are their employees.
Yeah, because if you're in a certain position at a company, you have some skill set. You have some knowledge that all you have to do is package up, choose a channel, put it out there, and all of a sudden you're an influencer basically.
Right.
And that helps the overall company from its free marketing, its exposure, and it's coming from people who are like, if your employees talk good about the business, like that's a good sign.
Exactly.
Versus paying Shaquille O'Neal.
Exactly. And I'm all about, helping companies understand how to build employee advocacy and engagement. And that's by powering them to create content on behalf of the company, to use their personal channels as a vehicle to generate brand awareness and leads. And the companies that are doing that well are dominating because now they have all this extension of marketing channels and free PR from their employees. So It's up to the leader within the company, right? There should be someone that's kind of managing what the employees are doing. And it's, I have a brand strategy course on LinkedIn also, and there's a video in there about like how to power your employee personal brands. It's making sure that there's a cohesive message, right? It's
Right.
making sure the employees know the do's and don'ts. It's making sure that employees have assets, whether it's graphics or industry news or, assets on behalf of the company so that the brand is still getting solidified, but through these personal channels. So it's really there has to be that marketing person, right, within the company that's helping to power the employee channels with the do's and don'ts of what to do, and even the ask. Like, we'd love for you to engage 3 times a week on LinkedIn, right? So if you're the marketing person within the company, to me, it's your job to create that structure so that you're supporting your employees with what to do on behalf of the company. It shouldn't be on the employee to figure it out. It should be, there should be some cohesive organization streamlining that process.
It's interesting that it's going in that direction because we're in the banking world, and from a compliance standpoint, it's hard enough for the BDO to even get permission to post, but forget about it with the underwriters and the closers and the other people behind the scenes. But it's interesting that if that's where it's going, then it's only a matter of time.
Absolutely. So it's that one person within the industry that understands the compliance regulations, right? What's doable, what's not doable. So they can kind of create this guideline, this guide to be able to give to the people within the industry, right? Or their employees of, here are sample posts. Here are sample graphics. Here are words that you cannot use. Here are words that you can use, just so that it's cohesive, it's well branded across all channels, whether it's the brand channel or the employee channel. And nobody wants a compliance issue, right? So there's probably a compliance officer. That person should be in charge of like a social rule book, right? So sample posts and also assets that you're giving to your employees helps that process a lot. Right?
Yeah, and it's a fine line too, because like you don't want the compliance people messaging. Right. That's going to be a boring, watered down message, because you have to be authentic.
Yes.
In social media, you have to sometimes you let your personality come through. It can't just be a boring thing that no one's going to want to read. That's not going to work.
I always say, like, nobody wants to read a billboard, right? Like, if it sounds like a billboard or acts like a billboard, talks like a billboard, it's like next, right? So that's why give your employees a little bandwidth, because they're going to put their unique touch on it. They're going to make it sound more authentic, but they have to have a framework for what to work in, of course, if there's a lot of compliance going on. So I even like to give them sample posts so that they could see how that sample post looks and feels. But even like language we can use versus copy and paste this caption, right? I do believe that there's absolutely a way to do it in every industry. It just takes, the marketing compliance team some time to organize structure to allow their employees to thrive within the structure.
Sometimes I'll follow an influencer on like Instagram, and they put so much stories on where the stories are little dots at that point, and I have like OCD, so I have to click through the whole story and it takes forever. It's like, so why are these influencers putting out so much content? Like, there's got to be a limit to how much content you could put out where no one's going to watch all that.
Yeah. So I'm all about quality over quantity. I do not believe like more is always better. I think that more can just be annoying, and you can, just run your followers into the ground if it's content that's not of value to them. People are interested in your life and your behind the scenes, and that's where stories do thrive. But when it comes to the content on your feed, quality over quantity any day. So I'm even big on, if you're going to, not know what to post for 5 days, do 3 amazing posts and do 3 days a week. Building a content library really helps to allow you to build quality content ahead of time, so that it doesn't boil down to, oh my gosh, what am I posting today? And taking hours of your day to go create it in real time.
So you mentioned content library earlier. What is that?
Okay, this is literally the secret to success when it comes to consistency and building an audience and building engagement. So my biggest thing that I work on with clients is building content 30 days in advance. So I like to try to have at least 30-day content library so that you're not creating content in the day-to-day. Everybody has a day job, right? So don't take hours in the day to day, Monday through Friday, of like, what content am I posting today? Right? It takes the what am I posting out of the equation and a lot of hours back in your day. So I'm all about working smarter, not harder. Another LinkedIn course, how to work smarter, not harder. And it's all about creating content ahead. Okay, so you have trending content that you got to do more in real time. This is the evergreen content, right? The content that is industry relevant, expertise relevant, things that you know in 30 days from now are not going to become old news. These could be quick tips, how-tos, did you know, myth or fact, this or that, all relevant to sharing expertise value with your audience. And also think of various forms of formatting. Long-form thought leadership articles, right? Really rich in keywords, that SEO generator kind of content. You could do thought leadership articles on your blog if you have a blog, or on your LinkedIn if you have a LinkedIn, because of the articles section. Now, keywords and those rich keywords are also really good for SEO on LinkedIn, because it is a great for search engine optimization. Like when someone's typing into Google, a lot of times it'll take you to someone's LinkedIn page or a LinkedIn article. So it's great to have thought leadership articles on LinkedIn. It could also be video, right? 60-second video, 90-second video. It could be a quote graphic. It could be a listicle. Listicle meaning 5 ways to boost your personal brand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could be a boomerang. It could be a reel, right? Because you can create a reel on Instagram now, download it, share it to LinkedIn, right? So think about various forms of formatting. And before you know it, 30 pieces of content can really be created pretty fast, as long as you know your content pillars. So your content pillars are, what are the most important, things that you want to create content around? So for you, it would be SBA loans, business acquisition, right? Give me another topic.
Commercial real estate.
Commercial real estate. There's 3 pillars right now. All right. So then we can break down each of those 3 pillars, and you can go ahead and create various content formats and content within each pillar. Think of 10 pieces of content per pillar. Boom, you got 30 pieces of content. You could break down formats. Like, I want to do 5 videos, 5 quote graphics, 5 listicles, 2 leadership articles. All of a sudden, maybe you have more than 30 pieces of content. And this is a great way to build your content library with structure, with intention, for consistency, across channels.
That sounds nice. I am not doing that, and I really need to be, because I'm like, yeah, I'm always like doing it by the week, and it's stressful.
Exhausting.
You're under constant duress.
All right, well, we could talk. You know where to find me. We could do a content session.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's really great to do that, because even you do one session, right? And then you have the framework of how to do it for yourself ongoing. So maybe you don't want to do a whole personal brand, build out or consultation, but you need to get, consistent with your content. And that's a great way to put, your money and your energy into, because your content is the ultimate vehicle for building your personal brand presence, right? For people who are like, I'm not sure I want to, add the content piece to the package. I'm like, well, then how do you plan on building your personal brand, right? It's not just a logo and a channel.
Right.
It's the content you're sharing on that channel.
That's the most important part, in my opinion.
It is.
Madison and I were talking about this last night, because right now I may be oversaturating here. I do this podcast, The Art of SBA, and that's become a brand. We do different events. We just had our BDO awards. We do a monthly news or weekly newsletter, and it's just like its own thing. And the audience is SBA lenders, right? Like I'm an SBA lender, so these are other SBA lenders. Then we launched an SBA Ray YouTube channel for the entrepreneur, which is long form video content. And then we also started another podcast, also with video, that's also for the entrepreneur. And then I share it all on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So my LinkedIn audience, which is my biggest audience, sees almost like conflicting. And sometimes like the folks that are on one side are like one of the folks reached out to me the other day, and he's like, I I know are you still lending? Because you're also doing like this Art of SBA podcast stuff, which is more like inside baseball for your industry. So am I doing the wrong thing there on LinkedIn by having both of these? I'm like posting from both pages, like different messages to my audience.
Okay, yeah, you can be doing, it could be a little confusing in mixed messaging, right? So it's a way, that's back to the umbrella, right? Of like, okay, how are we creating the umbrella brand that allows all of these things to exist, but the audience knows what content's for who, if that makes sense? So I would have to kind of go look and deconstruct you a little bit more. But I would be very aware of who your LinkedIn primary audience is. And are they the entrepreneur or are they the lender?
That's a good question, because on the LinkedIn audience, it's a mix. There's lending people, and then there's also people who are advising small business owners. Mm-hmm. And then there's also small business owners. Okay.
Are you making it clear when you post a pod of topic and who is this for?
Yeah, the way I've been doing it is the Art of SBA page gets posted on, and the Story Loans podcast, which is more for the entrepreneur, I'll post on that page for that podcast.
Right.
And then I will, for my personal, just share each.
Okay, I think that's a good strategy. So each have their own existing page, which you can really speak to that audience, the lender, the entrepreneur. And then because you're the bridge, right? They're both your babies. You're taking from each page and sharing it on your personal profile. So that to me means the caption is really important. Within that caption, you need to define who this piece of content is for. And then that should take any of the questions away from, is this worthy of my time, or what is he doing, right? And then also what you are doing needs to be on your personal profile. You know, I host blank podcast and blank podcast for the blank, and this is who I work with, right? Just making it very clear that you host both of these podcasts for these individual audiences, and you work with who.
We need to sit down and do an umbrella.
And I bet you your umbrella will be actually easy to define, but it's always easier for me to have a visual. You know, each page, the industry audiences for both. Again, deconstruct to put you back together.
A lot of the people that listen to this are the SBA business development officers. So it's the folks that were in the room at the retreat. I would assume they know why having a personal brand is important. And if they don't, they do now.
Yeah.
And I know we've gotten a lot of the comments before about, you know, I feel uncomfortable going on video or going in front of a mic. And you kind of put you cleared that one up pretty quick because you can do other things.
Absolutely.
With the quote graphics and the
articles.
Exactly. Writing articles. But in a world where it's like, this is a commodity, we're selling money. We're selling SBA loans for folks who are buying businesses, buying real estate for their businesses. And there's hundreds of SBA lenders. They all work for X, Y, and Z bank. This is the perfect person that should be embracing a personal brand and growing a personal brand. So like what's important for a business development officer to know about personal branding in terms of how it can grow their business?
Well, I've gotten to know some fabulous BDOs over the past several months, thanks to the retreat. And what I would say is there's a few things to be excited about. One, it's not a very saturated market, you know, when it comes to personal branding for BDOs. So that's exciting because you have an opportunity to shine easier, right, than nutritionists or therapists or mindset coaches, right? Like there's a dime a dozen these days. So also, the other thing that's really exciting is that when it comes to being a BDO, right, it's a very complex industry, right? For the everyday person, it's like, what do you do? How do you do it? Oh, you can help me get money for my business. You can help me actualize my dream. That's exciting, but I have no idea how you do it. So there's so much expertise that all of you have that you might forget that the everyday person doesn't know these things. So there's so much to be able to share which allows you to share value and insights to, again, attract more people to go, oh, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Oh, I'm really learning a lot from this person. So it's not an industry that everybody just knows a lot about. Like, you have to be an expert in this space. So that gives you a leg up in solidifying yourself as an expert, right? Everyone who is a BDO also needs to take into consideration that your book of business is built on relationships, right?
100%.
Like, nobody's just like, here, Ray, here's a new lead. Like, you're networking, you're fishing for these leads. So your personal brand is another way to help you generate relationships, nurture leads. So if someone does learn about you and they pop onto your LinkedIn profile, they're going to be really impressed when they pull up Ray Drew, right? Wow, look at what this guy does. Look at all this valuable content he has. Look at these testimonials. Look at the endorsements. Look at his about summary. This guy's well trusted. This guy's the one I want to be with, right? So nurturing those relationships through your personal brand, actually, in my opinion, is the no-brainer of why personal branding is important for BDOs. Like, think about, you go to all these networking events. Okay, great. All you need is this to go on to all these networking events. And you also, with BDOs, it's not necessarily location-based.
Right, you could do it nationally.
Do it nationally. So using a LinkedIn helps you to connect with people in California if you're living in, Idaho, right? So, I mean,
exactly.
It's a relationship builder. It's a way to nurture relationships. And it could also, it's about, fast converting relationships and longer term relationships. Because someone might find Ray today, but they're not ready for you yet. In a year from now, they might be ready for you. So it's nurturing, like, the long-term and the short-term relationships. And again, if you're not out there, the competitor is.
Yeah, and I think because what we do is so rooted in old school banking, it's just like a lot of the folks don't have that gear, but it really is powerful. And even though you all are my competition, like, we're giving this away because it's helped me so much. I get on calls, and now with the YouTube traction starting to pick up, folks are coming on and they're like, oh, you're famous because you're on YouTube. I was like, I am, and it's happened within the industry, but now for small business owners to think I'm famous because I have YouTube videos is like, that changes the dynamic of, me trying to sell you and you trying to sell me.
Right.
Because now I'm a celebrity, and it changes the whole dynamic, and it decommoditizes me because folks are going to want to use me versus this other sea of bankers all doing the same thing.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so important.
Personal branding allows you to uniquely identify yourself, right? And I love helping my clients help define their unique identifier so that you're not one in a sea of plenty, right? You're uniquely you, and that's coming across in your branding and in your content, so that when someone does get on the phone with you, they feel like they know you already.
Yes.
They feel like they have to work with you or it's devastating, right? So that's all of the influence that you get to build in personal branding, in personal brand development. And I also want to make it really clear. Personal branding is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I'm sure you're aware of this, right? You didn't generate how many followers overnight, right? So the important thing to know about personal branding is a few things, right? The clarity behind your personal brand. It's not just about flipping on LinkedIn and just posting anything. So that's where the personal brand foundation is really important. Your who, what, where, when, why, how. All of those questions should be answered in regard to your industry expertise and target audience. Then it's, okay, what channels do I want to dominate on? Is it LinkedIn? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? Don't try to be everywhere because you're going to burn out real quick. Be on the 3 primary channels that your audience is most engaged on. Anyone can go onto social media demographics and figure that out per industry. Then build a content library. Define your content pillars. Define what formats you feel comfortable with. So maybe video's not your thing. All right, start with some other formats, right? Get your feet wet, get your prime your engine, okay? But I will tell you that video is the hottest marketing content format out there. And again, it's because we're craving human connection. Like, we're on a podcast right now, but there's cameras everywhere, right? There's a reason. So video, it will always convert faster. always. And then you gotta be consistent. It's not about building a 30-day content library and that's it. You gotta then build the next 30 days. So once you have a 3 to 6 month rollout under your belt, you've been consistent for 3 to 6 months, is when you can then look back and assess what worked and what didn't work, right? Like, oh, that format killed it. That topic had so many comments. That video got crickets. So you can really assess after 3 to 6 months what worked, what didn't work, so then you can do more of what worked in the next library.
That's spot on, because you go through the motions of doing your content, and then it's just like one day you look up and you're like, oh, I have a following.
Right.
It does not happen overnight, but it's the consistency is the number one thing. And
here's the other really important tip, reminder that everyone tends to forget because we're so self-absorbed, right? What am I posting? When do I share? How many likes did I get? How many comments did I get? You are going to build a network, a community, so much faster if you are also engaging in others. So do a few things. Who are your competitors? Who's following them? Those people are the people that you should be engaging, right? On their posts, on their channels, commenting, showing them love, starting conversations on their channels, their content, so that people are like, oh, who's this Ray Drew guy? Oh, I see him. Yesterday he posted on a comment. Today he posted on a video. I'm going to go click on his profile. You got to show up to be seen as well. So it's not all about what you're creating and you're posting. It's also about how much you're engaging in the right people. It's like going to lunch with a friend and they're only talking about them.
I have some of those.
Not your favorite people to go to lunch with, right? And how much are they friends if they really don't care about what you have to say? Like, that's social media. It's a two-way dialogue. It's a two-way conversation. So it's more about how many comments you're getting, even more than how many likes you're getting, because that's the quality conversation. That's the quality over quantity. Those are the warm leads. Those are the hot prospects. So when you have a viral video, are you connecting with all 5 million of those people? No. How many people are you actually having quality conversation and nurturing those relationships? That's what matters, especially for the BDOs out there when you're in charge of generating your book of business.
It makes perfect sense. And I think probably the BDOs I know, I would say 9 out of 10 would say this makes perfect sense and I want to do it, but it just seems really overwhelming. I don't know where to start.
That's valid. I'm going to validate that right now. It is overwhelming. It is a lot because you also all have full-time jobs and probably families and want a little time to yourself, as we all deserve. This is why it's really helpful to outsource, right? And to me, work smarter, not harder. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, outsource strategically. So if you have to outsource a coach to help you just organize your personal brand and your content strategy and help you get that 30 days of content created, do it. Because once you know how to do it, you have that framework and those tools and that know-how ongoing. Give yourself the opportunity. Do I like this? Do I like creating content? Some people love the outlet of the creative outlet of creating content. Some people know, you know what, I want to create I'll create 10 videos in a day, but I need someone to go edit them for me. Okay, go outsource the editing. So it's like, okay, get creative where you can after you have your strategy. Get the strategy down. And that usually comes with a coach or a consultant, right? If you have no idea what you're doing. If you're in complete overwhelm, let someone help you.
And you do that?
That is what I do. I work with entrepreneurs of all different industries to help them package their personal brand. How do they create their umbrella? How do they connect all of their dots? How do they create their content strategy, their social strategy, what content to create, when to share it? I help answer all of the questions, usually that leads to overwhelm.
Okay, well, we're going to need to talk because I'm already at that level of overwhelm, but we'll leave your contact info in the show notes so everyone can find you.
And if someone reaches out to me and you mention Ray Drew, I know they'll come from you, and I'm happy to give 10% off.
You heard it here, folks.
Yes.
Well, Chelsea Krost, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of The Art of SBA Lending. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, email me at ray@artofsba.com. Until next time, ta-ta.